Every meaningful investigation begins the same way. Someone realizes they don't yet understand something. Sometimes the question is scientific. Sometimes the question is deeply human. The first explanation is often the easiest, but what if it isn't the right answer? Some investigations test what we think we know. Others begin by discovering what we don't know. The story of grounded theory did not begin with a textbook. In the early 1960s, sociologists Barney Glaser and Anselm Strauss began studying one of the most difficult subjects in hospital life. At the time, hospital staff seldom talked openly about dying and death with seriously ill patients. Glaser and Strauss sought to understand experiences that were often left unspoken. Working in hospitals, they faced a practical challenge. How could researchers move from hundreds of interviews, observations, and field notes toward explanations that remained faithful to what participants actually experienced? As they searched for an answer, they developed a systematic approach for building explanation from evidence. That approach became known as grounded theory. To understand how grounded theory works, we'll follow a fictional investigation. Like every investigation, it begins with a question, not an answer. The question is simple. Why do some students lose motivation during online learning? Researchers ask many different questions. Some ask whether an existing explanation is correct. Others ask what explanation is needed in the first place. Grounded theory is chosen when researchers need to develop an explanation rather than test one. The researcher prepares to listen, not to confirm an explanation, but to discover how participants understand their own experiences. An initial idea may exist, it often does, but in grounded theory, early ideas are starting points, not destinations. The investigation begins with a conversation, and with that first conversation, the evidence begins to speak. Every investigation begins with someone's experience.
By the end of the day, I just feel exhausted. I've spent hours looking at a screen, and eventually I stop paying attention.
At first, the explanation seems obvious. Rather than immediately accepting an explanation, the researcher begins by identifying ideas contained within the participant's own words. These early ideas are not conclusions. They are observations that may later become important. This process is called open coding. The investigation has taken its first step. A second conversation begins.
Honestly, I don't mind being online. What wears me down is feeling like nobody notices whether I'm there or not.
This experience sounds different. Rather than choosing one interview over another, the researcher compares them. Both participants describe losing motivation, but they describe different experiences. The explanation is no longer quite as certain. Grounded theory moves forward by allowing evidence to reshape explanation. Comparison raises a new question. What do these experiences have in common? Rather than rushing toward an answer, the researcher begins writing down possibilities. These notes are called memos. They capture ideas while they are still forming. A memo does not prove an idea. It records the researcher's current thinking so it can later be tested against new evidence. In grounded theory, understanding grows one observation at a time. The memo raises an important question. If motivation is influenced by more than screen time, who should be interviewed next? The next participants are not chosen randomly. They are selected because each may strengthen, refine, or challenge the developing explanation. The investigation follows the questions raised by the evidence. The developing theory now guides the search for additional evidence. Sometimes those new conversations confirm an emerging idea. Sometimes they change it completely. The next conversation was chosen because it could test the developing explanation.
Most of my courses are online, and honestly, I enjoy them. I feel connected to my classmates, and I actually participate more than I did in person.
This experience doesn't fit the explanation that's beginning to emerge. Good research doesn't ignore evidence that challenges its ideas. Instead, the explanation is revised so it can account for a wider range of experiences. The theory becomes more useful because it explains more than it could before. Every improvement creates another question. Grounded theory grows stronger each time it survives a serious challenge. The investigation continues. New conversations continue to test the developing explanation. Something begins to happen. The new evidence still matters, but it is no longer changing the central explanation.
Most of my courses
By
are
the end of the
online.
day, I
and
just feel
honestly, I
exhausted.
enjoy them. I feel connected
spent
to my
hours
classmates,
looking
and
at
I
a screen,
actually
and
participate more than I
eventually
did in
stopped paying
person.
attention.
I think this group should be a little closer in, and then they should, I had no idea. When they see a bunch of,
Researchers call this theoretical saturation. The decision to stop is not based on how many interviews have been completed. It is based on whether new evidence continues to deepen the developing explanation. The theory has become stable enough to explain the experiences encountered in this study. The investigation now turns from discovering a theory to presenting one. Every interview, every comparison, every revision has been leading here. Grounded theory does not produce a list of findings. It produces an explanation. In this investigation, motivation appears to depend less on the presence of online learning itself than on the quality of engagement, connection, and participation experienced by learners. This explanation did not exist before the investigation began. It emerged through systematic engagement with the experiences shared by the participants. Every part of the theory can be traced back to evidence. That is what makes it grounded. The theory is complete. The inquiry, however, is not. By now you have noticed something unusual. The documentary never began by teaching definitions. It began with a question. Each idea appeared only when it became necessary. Coding emerged because observations needed to be organized. Comparison emerged because new evidence challenged earlier ideas. Memo writing emerged because understanding needed a place to develop. The theory did not exist before the investigation, neither did the path that led to it. The story of grounded theory did not end in 1967. Like the theories it produces, the methodology itself continued to evolve. Glaser and Strauss introduced what later became known as classical grounded theory, emphasizing the emergence of theory from data. Strauss and Corbin later developed a more structured analytical approach, often referred to as Straussian grounded theory. Kathy Sharmas subsequently developed Constructivist grounded theory, emphasizing that meaning is co-constructed through the interaction between researcher and participant. Although these traditions differ philosophically, they share the same central commitment, allowing explanatory theory to emerge through disciplined engagement with empirical evidence. Since its introduction, grounded theory has been applied wherever researchers seek to understand processes that existing theories cannot fully explain. In sports psychology, researchers asked how Olympic champions develop resilience under extraordinary pressure. Through interviews, coding, constant comparison, theoretical sampling, and the theory development, an explanation emerged. In educational leadership, researchers asked how school leaders develop professionally through generative dialogue. Through interviews, comparison, and iterative analysis across multiple waves of data, they developed a grounded theory centered on environment, relationships, and leadership. In doctoral education, researchers asked why students persist through the dissertation process in a limited residency program. Through open coding, axial coding, and theory development, they discovered how communication, mentorship, and connectedness shape persistence. Across disciplines, the questions change, the participants change, the contexts change. The disciplined process of inquiry remains remarkably consistent. Different questions, different participants, different disciplines. Yet each began the same way, by listening carefully, comparing systematically, and allowing explanation to emerge from evidence rather than assumption. Grounded theory is not the practice of proving an idea. It is the discipline of allowing an explanation to emerge.